of the Constitution provides that in performing their functions and accessing their powers, the national security organs and every member of the national security organ shall not act in a partisan manner, further any interest of a political party or cause, or prejudice a political interest or political cause that is legitimate under this Constitution. Article 239, Subarticle 5 of the Constitution provides the national security organs are subordinate to civilian authority. In relation to this allegation, I wish to state that the National Intelligence Service holds a very critical role in ensuring the safety and security of our country. They are responsible for gathering intelligence and share it with all our law enforcement agencies to ensure that the country is safe at all times. Consequently, when the country was caught flat-footed with regard to the scope and extent of the public's dissatisfaction with the Finance Bill 2024, which degenerated in a Gen Z protest, it began, and this would have caused a change of tact by government regarding the proposed bill, and the protests which culminated in the loss of innocent lives and destruction of property could have been avoided. Hence, I expressed my opinion on this in my public media briefing in Mombasa, and my utterances were not any different from what happens in other countries when there is a lapse or failure by the intelligence agencies. The nation has witnessed unfortunate instances of several extrajudicial killings, abductions, and disappearances. I firmly believe that if the National Intelligence Service had acted diligently, these instances would not have been witnessed. Under the Constitution, the government agencies are supposed to be accountable to the Kenyan people, including the National Intelligence Service, and calling them out when a dereliction of duty does not amount to undermining them. I am also aware that the Kenya Kwanza government has been at the forefront in calling out officers who do not seem to understand their work. Recently, my boss, the president, publicly complained that there are some PSs and CSs who did not seem to understand their role. Please play for me video number 5, RG5.
On President William Ruto, members of his cabinet is utterly clueless and uninformed about the dockets they occupy. A sign of trouble for cabinet secretaries, the State House gates were shut for those who arrived late, with both President Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua giving a sharp tongue lashing to the latecomers. And our Citizen TV's Chemutai Goin reports the atmosphere at the State House, Nairobi, left little doubt on President Ruto's disappointment with a vast section of his 22-member cabinet.
A cold morning in Nairobi, but the seats on the State House grounds came ultra-heated, particularly for cabinet secretaries. The cabinet members came here to sign performance contracts, but the oral appraisal of the day spurred anything between trouble and outright doom.
If you cannot keep time with your employer, you have basically dismissed yourself. I mean, it's just as simple as that. So, for those who came late, who are members of the executive, I will be expecting a written explanation, and it should not include matters of traffic.
Punctuality was at issue, with some cabinet secretaries being locked out of State House for lateness. And from the podium, the president and his senior lieutenants were unforgiving.
Nimeona watu wale wamechelewa, nikaona rais unaniona ninamjua. Nikaona uso yake nikajua hapa kimeumana. Sababu leo ni siku ya performance contract. Ile siku muhimu sana ya kuja kuweka. Na wewe umefika pale, rais amekaa. Tayari amekaa na ndiye rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Wewe umechelewa ukiwa kuona nani? Who else have you gone to see?
One of the things we need to learn in our performance contract is to beat the traffic.
For the 19 cabinet secretaries present,
something is very wrong. How do you run a ministry or a department or a parastatal if you have no information? That is the highest level of incompetence.
Those of us who came with the president from the political space and who are his friends, and we assisted him to become president. Once he gives us a job, why do you have to honor every invitation that you have been given to every country?
Your Excellency, at times we have tried to hold cabinet committees, we can't. 5, 6, 7, 8 ministers are out of the country. Some change clothes at the airport from one country to another. That is the truth. Why can't you regulate yourself? If the president was to travel and honor every invitation, he will be out of this country the whole year. You just have to decide what is useful and other things you can leave to our ambassadors out of the country.
So when you hear my deputy saying, find time, travel, but travel and see the people who have hired us, you know, go to different parts of Kenya so that you can get feedback from the public.
We have done so much as an administration, but the information is not out there. Our ministers are quiet. They are called for TV interviews, they don't show up to say what they have done. And then the media have works for government. I would rather we spend more time explaining to the people of Kenya what we have done in our respective dockets as opposed to travel. And if we have to travel, let's travel up country to where wananchi are and explain what we are doing.
And I remember I called CS Chelugui. I didn't find him, so I called his PS, and I found her, and I explained to her, I told her, look, the public is not understanding this. Did I call you or not on Sunday? You know, I told you this is what the public is saying. Please do more sensitization on Hustler Fund Phase 2.
With a very public expression of disappointment in his cabinet, President Ruto has triggered speculation on changes in government as his administration approaches the end of its first year in office. From punctuality to work ethic and general performance, the proverbial axe could well fall somewhere. With the performance contracts expected to foster a culture of high performance in the public service and also ensure that public resources are properly utilized, it is also set to offer a framework for President William Ruto to reward performers and also institute sanctions on non-performers. Chemutai Goin, Citizen TV.
Mr. Speaker, President William Ruto, my boss, and I have been calling out senior government officials when they fall short of expectations. The Director General of the National Intelligence Service is no exception. He's not above the law. He's accountable to the people of Kenya for his performance. And I have had an argument that we should not call out those in the security sector. I would like you to play the next video.
We have the most incompetent Inspector General of Police, I think, in the world. The most incompetent in the whole world. His incompetence may not necessarily play out when things are working, but when things get to a head and you need some decisions to be made, I can tell you for sure, the gentleman we have as an IG cannot make any decision.
Nataka tumwambie ule mtu wa sinema mingi anaitwa nani ule mtu? Ule sijui anaitwa DCI, ule anaitwa nini? Ule mtu anaitwa Kinoti. Awache ujinga. Huyo bwana Kiboti awache ujinga. Sio kama tunaelewana. Huyo Kinoti hakuna kitu amefanya kwa hii Kenya ya kisiasa. Yeye ni mtu ya sinema. Anaendesha makesi kwa magazeti. Anatuandikia barua, sijui barua ya kilomita ngapi. Mr. Kinoti, please, save your time. Stop writing to us long letters. Leave matters of elections to IEBC. You have no business in IEBC. You have failed as DCI. We don't want you to fail our elections. Tunaelewana? Huyo bwana Kinoti awache hiyo ujinga yake anaendesha pale. kwa sababu anatukasirisha. Huyo bwana Kinoti tunataka tumwambie awachane na watu wa IBC wafanye huu uchaguzi. Alipatiwa kazi ya kufanya criminal investigation. He has never done anything. Ile kesi yote anafanya kesi kwa magazeti. Akiambiwa apeleke evidence kule kotini ameshindwa. So bwana Kinoti, wacha sinema. You have failed and wait for August so that you can.
Honorable members, that was President William Ruto as Deputy President criticizing IG Mutiabai, DCI Kinoti. Regarding Gachagua has learned his job from his boss, that public officers must be called to order when they fell short of expectation. And I never saw anybody bring William Ruto here for impeachment for criticizing the IG or the DCI. This is a very unfair allegation. Mr. Speaker, it is also the IMF has already warned about to investigate why their intelligence agency was coordinating coffee reforms. The Cooperative Bill 2023 and the Coffee Bill 2023 is before this House. I listened to you this morning, and it was quite emotive. By virtue of provisions of the third schedule of the Political Parties Act, the constituent parties of the Kenya Kwanza coalition entered into various agreements, which were deposited with the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Speaker of the Senate for purposes of provision of Clause 3, Schedule 3, provision of Clause 3, Schedule 3, a power sharing agreement and development agenda for the certain regions of Kenya. I attach copies of these agreements, RG 32. All those agreements talked about specific regions. The leaders who appended their signatures canvassed issues of appointments to do with specific regions. Power sharing agreement between UDA and ANC and for Kenya, for example, say that the UDA would nominate the coalition president, the presidential and deputy presidential candidates that was honored. The president would guarantee the stature, the dignity, and financial and operational autonomy of the office of the deputy president, which I've been insisting on because it's part of the coalition agreement. The ANC would be allocated the position of the prime cabinet secretary, which has happened. Ford Kenya would be the Speaker of the National Assembly, and that is why Honorable is here today. In accordance with Article 2 of the Power Sharing Agreement, ANC at Fort Kenya would have a 30% share is a word, of the national government positions. This drives my utterances. It is embedded in all these agreements that are attached here for you to read. I heard this morning an honorable member saying that the deputy president said the people of Ukambani will not get resources because they did not vote for Kenya Kwanza government. That is not true. The Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya does not allocate resources. Resources for the development of the Republic of Kenya are appropriated by the National Assembly of Kenya, where I am today. The Deputy President will help the President to oversee the implementation of funds allocated and appropriated by the National Assembly. It is therefore not possible that the Deputy President of any part of Kenya resources because of the way they voted. The decisions on how for the development of the Republic of Kenya are made here by the honorable members. If your area has no development, the agreements are attached, therefore I don't want to go into them. Let me say my speeches on the shareholder issue were informed by the foresaid power sharing